Chapter 4 of Tractate Beitzah further goes through the laws of prohibitions and Muktzeh on holidays. The first Mishnah says, on a holiday, if you're carrying jugs around, you can't carry a large number of them in a basket or a tub as you typically do, as it's viewed as disrespectful to the holiday. You can carry one or two on your shoulders or in front of you. Similarly, if you're carrying a tub of straw on a holiday, you should have it in front of you, as a different manner of doing things. Even if you didn't designate the straw before the holiday, you can take from it, but not so from a woodshed. The Gemara clarifies, if you can't carry something in a deviated manner from the rest of the week, you can just carry it in the normal way. If something is normally carried on your shoulders on the holiday, you'd carry it in a pitchfork. If it's normally carried with a pitchfork, you could carry it on a pole, resting on the shoulders of two people. If it's normally carried like that, carry it on a handheld bowl. If it's normally carried like that, then you should cover the item with a kerchief, and if you can't do that, just carry it in the normal manner. Generally, basically, you just make a deviation, but women filling up water from a river should do it so normally, because if they used smaller buckets, they'll end up walking more, and if they used a larger bucket, it'll be a larger load. And they can't put a lid on, as then they might tie it, which is not allowed. And they can't put a kerchief over the bucket, as it could get soaked and they'll squeeze it out, which is also impermissible on a holiday. There are related points on not rebuking people for violating biblical law if we know they won't listen. It says the point on taking straw or wood is like Reb Shimon, who holds a more lenient view on Muktzeh. So straw is allowed, but the wood is not, as it's types of cedar wood, which are Muktzeh for monetary loss. Others say the inverse, that it's like Rabbi Yehuda, who holds a broader, more strict view of Muktzeh, but he allows the straw as it's decayed straw with thorns in it, so it can't even be used for cement. New Mishnah, you cannot detach wood from a hut on a holiday besides for that which adjoins it. The Gemara explains that removing wood would be demolishing a structure, which is not allowed on Shabbos or holidays. The adjoining wood that we said you could take off, some said that's where it's part of the walls or the roof if it was tied in bundles, so they're only there for storage and can be removed. There's debate if it's permissible to remove wood by a sukkah on sukkahs. Some say only if you stipulated you were going to use the wood beforehand, others say you can use it. Some clarify this is only if the sukkah collapsed on the holiday. There's further discussion on this on sukkahs and the esrog. New Mishnah, on holidays we can bring wood from a field from a pre-gathered wood pile. You cannot bring it from an enclosure, even from wood that's scattered about. What's defined as an enclosure is debated. Some say if it's near the town, others say if you need to enter with a key, even if it's within the Shabbos Tichum boundary. The Gemara says that others disagree, saying you can only bring gathered wood in from an enclosure. Also, leaves of reeds or vines, if they're gathered, you still can't bring them in on a holiday, as if wind would blow, they would scatter, so they're considered to be scattered. The only way they're not Muktzeh is if you put a utensil on them to hold them down before the holiday started. The Gemara explains that if the enclosure is near the town, but unlocked, we're lenient, and if it's away from town, we're lenient, which is the opinion we hold like. New Mishnah, no chopping wood on a holiday, not from a beam, not if the beam broke on the holiday. No chopping wood with an axe, saw, sickle, or otherwise, but you can use a cleaver. The Gemara clarifies that you can use a cleaver on a beam that broke before the holiday. The issue normally is one of Muktzeh. Some say that the wide end of an axe blade is not allowed, but you can use the narrow end. Others say that this actually applies to the cleaver, that you can only use its narrow end. These statements are explained. New Mishnah, if a room was filled with produce and sealed before a holiday and was then breached on the holiday, you can take produce from the breach. Others say you can even breach the wall yourself and then take produce. The Gemara clarifies that this is a wall made of a pile of bricks, which can be used on a holiday, although not on Shabbos, as if there's piled bricks, they're being used for future construction and are Muktzeh. Related concepts of demolishing are discussed. There are things like an opinion that you can't cut ropes on Shabbos, but it's allowed on a holiday, and you can't use undamaged utensils for firewood at all. New Mishnah, no hollowing out a lamp on a holiday, as that makes a vessel. You also can't make charcoal or cut a wick in two, but some say you can cut it with a flame. The Gemara says the source for the point on lamps. It was said by Rabbi Meir, and a small lamp can't be used as it's a utensil, which could be used to hold coins, which is discussed further. It also says no making charcoal for a bathhouse, as there's a rabbinic issue with using a sweat room. No using a knife to separate two wicks, but you can cut the wick in half with a candle, as long as the wick's two ends are in a lamp, so it appears as if you're just lighting a candle. You can trim a wick on a holiday to remove the charcoal residue at the top, which messes up the illumination. Some other rulings of a wick on a holiday, you can't twist one or singe it with a flame or cut it in two, but it is allowed to press it together by hand, soak it in oil, or cut it in half with a flame when it's in two lamps, as mentioned. There are some other points mentioned about the importance of giving charity and similar. New Mishnah, you cannot break a shard or cut a piece of paper to roast a salted fish on it. You cannot shovel out an oven or a double stove, but you can press down on the ashes inside to level them. You cannot position two barrels next to each other and put a pot on them, and you cannot support a pot with a piece of firewood or a door. There's disagreement if you can drive an animal with a stick on a holiday. The Gemara says the issue with breaking a shard or cutting the paper to cook a fish on it is that you're perfecting a utensil, which is not allowed on a holiday. There are other related points discussed. Unlike by positioning barrels, you can align stones of an outhouse next to each other on a holiday, as the issue with a temporary structure is rabbinic, which can be overrode by an outhouse for the sake of dignity. You cannot stack logs from the bottom up, but you can do it from the top down by holding the top ones in place. This also applies to eggs, a pot, a bed, and barrels. We clarify that you can't support a pot or a door with firewood. The issue with driving an animal is that it looks like you're traveling with it to the market. There's argument about using a dry pointed branch as a spit, which we say is allowed, just not a moist one. Some also say on a holiday, you can't take wood from a woodshed to be used as a poker, and you can't kindle with a designated poker that broke, as you can't use a broken vessel. We bring a source to show that this opinion holds like Rabbi Yehuda's opinion of a stricter, broad application of Muktzeh. New Mishnah. An opinion says you can use a sliver of wood that's before you as a toothpick on a holiday, and you can gather slivers of wood from your courtyard to kindle, as if it's in your courtyard it's considered to be prepared. Others say you can only kindle with wood that's in your house. No making fire on a holiday, not from wood, stones, earth, tiles, with water when used as a magnifying glass, and you cannot heat tiles to roast on them. The Gemara says that the prohibition of perfecting a vessel doesn't apply to things that could be used as food for animals. The other points are also expounded on and discussed. Kindling fire from one candle to another is allowed on holidays for food preparation. The issue with igniting a fire is because you're creating it. Heating tiles is problematic by new tiles, some say because they're untested and can break, some say because it hardens them, which is not allowed. Related points are discussed along with some of the miscellaneous forbidden things on holidays. New Mishnah, you can stand next to Muktzeh food on Friday during a sabbatical year and declare that you'll eat from it tomorrow. Others say you're also required to mark off the portion. The Gemara further explains these points. There are related points on laws of purity and Muktzeh food and also how they relate to certain types of tithes. The remaining points on the necessity to tithe these particular produce are clarified. And that's the end of chapter 4.